Manchester City 4, Manchester United 1. I'm joined by Stephen Howson. Give me your overall thoughts on that.
Started off pretty positive, I thought. I mean, as positive it can be without conceding in the first 5 minutes. But, the comical defending aside, I thought we had a real clear game plan. And I thought we looked like I hoped we would look against Atletico, but didn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the first half. But then 2 really wank preventable goals to concede. And that's the problem, is like City are so good that you've got to make them work a bit harder to score against you, surely. Yeah. I thought Sancho took his goal fantastic. I was so pleased for him to be able to stick one back to City fans as well. Because like they're a weird beast, aren't they, City fans? Not many of them. They sort of jumped on hating Sancho in a big way because he exposed Pep for not really playing youngsters that were clearly good enough. With inside 18 months of him leaving Manchester City is like one of the most productive wingers in world football. I think it justified his decision to leave. And I think because City fans are fucking it, it's just like when Liverpool fans decided to hate Evra for being a victim of racial abuse. Like City fans just hated him because he was like going head to head with their manager. And he was right, whether it was right or wrong, like they just hated him. And I was pleased for him to get a goal back in front of them because that'll mean a lot to him now. But outside of the 2 comically bad goals we conceded, of which both centre-halves were shite and involved in, I was impressed with our shape, first half, commitment, pressing in right areas. Like it looked like we knew what we were doing and were doing it for the most part. Like we were pressing them when they were in their third. We left it in the middle third and fell back into a low block with some really nice shape to us. And it looked like we was dangerous on the counter. And I was texting people after we'd scored, when it was 2-1, going, I think we get the next one, I really feel like we're about to get the next goal here. And then they came out in the second half, and I think they just started targeting some of the obvious weaknesses in our squad. And to be fair, there's a few. But I think they really picked on Wan-Bissaka. If you look at the amount of failed passes, and I think it was because they there's 2 things at play here. And I know this is something Pep did at Barcelona, and I assume he's carried this through to Manchester City. So I imagine this is what happened. Do you notice how many attacks were going down our right-hand side, their left-hand side?
I think at one point in the first half, it was 70% of the attacks, or 65% were down that side. Yeah.
Do you know why that is?
Presumably because they saw Wan-Bissaka as a weak point and thought they could get past him easily.
No, not actually. No, they will do that to see where the attack breaks down, knowing that he's not the strongest one to restart a counter attack. So they'll attack down one area, not because he's defensively weak, but because he's offensively weak, which means that when their attack breaks down, it's like you don't want to break your attack down at Pogba's feet because he's going to hurt you potentially. Whereas if you do it in front of Wan-Bissaka, Tellez potentially, they've got the ability to be able to play long, rangy, accurate balls that are going to do something. So I think they targeted Wan-Bissaka, and obviously he's someone that you can press in possession anyway because there's a good chance he's going to give you the ball back. But I think the reason that they were targeting him to attack was to kill our counters in a way. And I really go out of my way not to give Pep any credit for anything whatsoever, but I will give him some credit in that because that's some just like 3D chess shit that.
Yeah, it's looking at not just what they're doing, but what they can stop us doing when we stop them. That's it's really thinking outside the box, isn't it?
That's proper thinking 6 fucking moves ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff.
Russian grandmaster chess shit.
That second half, then, obviously, I agree with you. First half, I think City were probably the better team, but United were a team. United looked like a competent opposition. United put something in the way of Manchester City. The second half, there was a stat at one point. There's a 15-minute period where they had 92% possession. That isn't just not a football team. That is not. They're not even playing against human beings at that point. They'd have a similar percentage possession against Crufts. Like, Do you think?
Some of them dogs have got agility.
That's what I'm saying. And they're tenacious. Don't get me wrong, they run after the ball, but it's not football, is it? It's not a football team that has 8% possession. And we're not a terrible football team. We're a top half, comfortably football team. What happened in that second half? Did we give up? Did we just... there has to be a lack of effort or desire or something or belief for it to be that bad and that different in the second half, surely.
I think we always try and put the entire focus of what happened through our own lens of what did Manchester United do. And I think sometimes people love to forget that there's two teams in a game of football. And I think a lot of it was what City didn't let us do or what they did to us. And I think what happened to us, well, this United team's not a fit United team. We know that. We've seen this team crumble so many times this season that I think we get to the hour mark and I think we fade. And I think that was a massive drama for us in today's game. I think City played a real good game. I think tactically, I think Ralph had it bang on. That was the sort of performance I was hoping to see out of us at Atletico. I said that before, but I really hope that was something we could do. I mean, I had 10 out of the 11 starters in my preview. The only one I got wrong was Varane for Maguire, and that was probably more projecting than expected. When you look at what that team could do, there was a lot of really logical things that he did. And in practice, it didn't look half bad against a team that's probably the best team in Europe at the moment. So you got to doff a cap there. But also, you got to say you can only piss with a cock you got. You can't play through Manchester City with Wan-Bissaka, with Maguire, with Fred, with McTominay, with De Gea's passing out. There's too many weaknesses. And when you've got some players not quite at it, when there's some players not quite pulling in a full shift, I thought Alanga today exposed his lack of experience in big games and at this level. I thought he just looked a little off the pace. And it's allowed. I mean, he's had a fantastic start to life in the Manchester United first team. There'll be inevitable ceiling and topping out of where he gets to. And I thought that was evident a little bit today. You know, raw physicality wasn't getting him as far as it has done against other teams today. Marcus did nothing when he came off the bench. And Jesse Lingard. But that's our options. That's what we're limited to having. I think just lack of ability to be able to have in-form match winners on their day. We've done very well in recent years at the Etihad under Ole. I didn't have that confidence going into today's game, but that first 4.5 minutes, I had a little bit of confidence. And even after they scored, I don't think it shook us. But if we'd have carried on playing for another half an hour, they might have got 8-9. Like, it was just, we were so done come the end of the game. It was so easy for them come the end of the game. Everyone's talking about we're just miles off them. I mean, I can't believe it took today's match for everyone to think that, in all honesty.
I agree with that, and we are miles off them, and we saw that today, and it got worse as the game went on. And this thing about you can only piss with the cock you got, I agree. We just aren't as good as they are. But these human beings can be as fit as them and can try as hard as them for 90 minutes. There's a point in the second half where I think they were 3-1 up and Sancho got the ball on the left-hand side and knocked it into their half and chased after it. 4 City players swarmed him. They're 3-1 up. They've won the game. Even if he gets past him, he's probably not going to score because he's up there by himself. United weren't doing that against them when we were fighting for our lives, when we've still got a chance to get a point. That's one thing that does frustrate me, is that the whole fitness thing, I get it. Maybe you just can't bring that in later on in the season, and whose fault is it that they're unfit? Maybe Solskjaer, maybe the players, who knows? But some of it just looked like desire to me. And like I said, they were so done by the end of the game. But a team that can be as competitive as they were in the first half and as out of it in the second half, that suggests either a completely fundamental, just are nowhere near as fit as City, which, how can we be that far off? Or some mental thing where it's like, we just haven't got it. And I don't want to say gave up, but do you know what I mean? Do you not think there was an effort or an application problem there? Because it wasn't like they dominated the whole game. City were better than us the first half, but we looked like we could score. The second half, we weren't anything.
I think there's a mentality, there's
Yeah.
a grit, there's an application, there's a desire. You know, for all the talk about, there was a lot of talk coming out saying there's cliques in the dressing room, and there's been arguments behind the scenes, and there's all these things that are being leaked out. Some of the players I chatted to was like, yeah, the leaks thing. Sorry, not the cliques thing. There's some truth to that. It isn't a happy dressing room. It isn't a happy training ground. I don't necessarily know how you fix that at an elite level. I don't know if you just say, you bang a WhatsApp group, go, lads, check your fucking bank account.
I agree.
It should fucking perk you up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. But if you look back to the start of the season, Laporte, Bernardo Silva, Sterling, all players that with relatively reliable sources were saying they're pissed off, they want to leave, they're not happy with things. They are, I mean, Sterling's played the last couple of games for City, I know he doesn't play every week. Bernardo Silva has been pretty universally their best player this season. Laporte is playing every week. Not everyone in a dressing room has to be happy for people to work hard and to try. And that's the thing that
Easier
gets
when
me.
you're winning.
Yeah, maybe that's
Easier
what it
when
is.
you're winning.
Yeah.
Easier when you're winning. Easier when you've got... But I picked 10 out of 11 United players today. Most weeks you're going to get roughly that sort of guesstimation, right? When we first signed Tellers, we saw a reaction out of Luke Shaw, right? Replicate that to having a world-class player duplicated in every single position like City have got.
Yeah.
If you don't play well and turn up with the right attitude at City, Pepper's got, not only has he got the luxury of having 2 11s, he's got the luxury of just fucking sitting out a £50 million player or a £60 million player. He does it multiple times a game. You know, John Stones has been in the wilderness until people get injured, and then he's like, let's wheel out that 50 million centre half that I've got alongside my other £50 million centre half. No, he came out the other week like, well, I've got a £60 million centre half and a £40 million centre half missing for this weekend. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like, just crack on as we are. United, I think there's political reasons why some players play, be it Ronaldo being one and Maguire being another, and potentially even Bruno being a third, possibly even Jadon Sancho being an additional one with how much we've just spent on him, maybe even Paul Pogba as well when he's fit. And I think that because there's such a lack of confidence at Manchester United, such a lack of winning habit at Manchester United, such a sort of bit of a snide undercurrent currently at the club, I think that anyone that comes in with a bit of an iron fist, because we're not winning solves every problem, by the way. How many players fell out with Sir Alex Ferguson? Fucking
loads.
Nearly all of them.
Yeah.
There's probably less didn't fall out with him than did, right? But what did Sir Alex Ferguson have in his pocket? He had the thing that, like Pep's got now, he ain't ever getting sacked. He's got the ultimate power. These set of dicks that we've got wearing a United shirt at the moment, they've seen, a lot of them have seen several managers come and go, and it's affected them not a jot. They've not had a pay drop. They've not had any sort of reduction in status. They've just had someone else that they can take the piss out of being there. And there's no threats to these players. There's no one pushing them out of the team. You can play shit for months at United and still play. That's unheard of at Manchester United in my experience, bar the last decade. If you weren't putting in Manchester United level performances for the majority of my United watching, you got the bullet. Because, Jaap Stam came in, won 3 titles back to back, was fucking unreal. Fergie gives him the fucking bullet. David Beckham, who had been one of the best players in world football, he starts to, in Fergie's eyes, take his eye off the ball, which, let's be honest, he might not have done. Gets the fucking bullet. Roy Keane probably takes a 5-10% of reduction in terms of his performances on the pitch, has a little bit of a wobble off the pitch, gets the fucking bullet. Fergie used those things as excuses because he would always cover up for a good player. A good player would get away with murder under Fergie. If you performed on the pitch, he would fight for you. As soon as he was like, bit of a crack in the armour there, get the fuck out. He was ruthless. And none of these managers can afford to be ruthless. Do you think Ralph can come in and say, right, I'm not saying Pogba's a problem, but let's say he was. £90 million signing, get the fuck out. £80 million signing, get the fuck out. I don't think he's got that power. I don't think any manager that comes into Manchester United has got that power. Fergie talks about it extensively in his book. As soon as anyone thinks they're bigger than the manager, it's over. And you can't allow that to happen. And that's one of the reasons why Fergie went. That's one of the reasons why Roy Keane went. And that's one of the reasons why he kept that power. It was because anyone challenged it, they were fucking gone. And it wasn't just the fact that he was winning, but it helps. It was the threat that if I don't perform, he'll fucking give me the hook. And Pep's got that, and Klopp's got that at the moment.
Yep.
They've got some pretty good backup, different in terms of like the level of quality that they've got. Klopp's doing an impressive job doing it with like random backups. Pep's doing it with world-class signings in every single position ×2. But that in itself is a pressure. You know, if Jack Grealish ain't performing, Sterling's in. If Sterling ain't performing, Foden's in. They know they've got to make sure that they're 10 out of 10. One of the favourite things that I used to hear the likes of Keane and Rio and Rooney talk about is the hardest games they would have every week would be in training. City definitely had harder games in training this week than today.
Yeah.
And that's where they're showing their worth. They're having to fight in training just to get the right to wear a shirt in front of everyone at the weekend. And if they take their eye off the ball at the weekend, they're fucking not playing next week either.
No. Yeah, and if you think like the little matches they have in training, they're playing against better players than they just played against today. And that's the thing, like we think of boxing or martial arts. If you spar against shit people, you aren't going to be able to beat someone who's brilliant. Or you might be able to, but the chances are you won't because you've never experienced it before. In United, in training, in sparring, they're playing against average players or good players who don't give a shit. And that's the problem at the moment. Just before we go then, just to your point there about you need someone that the players believe has more power than them at the club. And obviously we saw with Solskjaer that wasn't the case. We saw with Van Gaal and even Jose that wasn't the case. The players could eventually oust him with a few bad performances in a row. We'll get someone else in. What are the odds that United's next manager, or how important is it that United's next manager is a name or has the success or whatever it takes for that to happen, for United to be successful medium to long term? Because, how
you just
how
had 3 back-to-back, Joe. You just had Louis Van Gaal. If you don't respect Louis Van Gaal, you don't know football. Jose Mourinho. If you don't respect what Jose Mourinho has done in the game, certainly up until that point, he'd had one little wobble with the Chelsea and probably the Eva Canero thing. Outside of that, he'd been almost flawless prior to coming to United. Since then, maybe not so much. And then you just had a club legend. Who do you respect and listen to if you're not listening to those 3? I guarantee there's not a player at the club at the moment that will achieve a fifth of what Solskjaer achieved at Manchester United. Not one. Not one current player, Ronaldo aside, doesn't count, that will ever have his name sung 20 years on at this club. Not one of them. So the fact that they can toss those 3 managers off, you start to understand why Ralph's all about first and second contract players, hungry players. Attitude trumps everything. We spoke about this the other day. Attitude over ability every single day of the week. Attitude will show up when ability won't. And that's what you almost have to roll it back to. Get people with the right character and the right stuff. There's too many fucking people see Manchester United as a destination and not as the opportunity. Players used to sign for United because that was the opportunity to win things. Rio came from Leeds because I'll win things at United. Rooney came from Everton because I'll win things at United. Ronaldo came because that would be the finishing school where he could move on and become the best in the world and win things at United. People are now seeing Manchester United as I've arrived, not the opportunity to do something great in the game. That's what Manchester United used to represent. It used to represent, come and play for us, and if you can work hard while you're here, you will have the opportunity for greatness. Now it's I play for Manchester United, has got an extra 2 million Instagram followers. Probably get a little bit more on my boot deal. But are you going to win anything while you're here? Probably not. But played for Manchester United. It's not about playing for Manchester United. It's about, there's probably over 1,000 players, I reckon, in the grand scheme of things, play for Manchester United. How many of them are title winners? How many of them are European Cup winners? That's the standard at Manchester United that you've got to attain to. There's so many players that have, all right, if it was your mate, if it was my mate, played one game for United, I'd be fucking buzzing for him. That's my mate that playing for United. But in the grand scheme of things, and in terms of your career, and in terms of what we're trying to be as a football club, you have to switch that idea of being a destination off and turn it back into the opportunity to go and do something. And that's going to be very, very difficult to do while you're dealing with Chelsea, while you're dealing with City, while you're dealing with Liverpool. But you have to start with bringing in the right stuff. And from what I've seen with Ralph Rangnick so far, I think he's done a fucking great job. Like a great job. And I think he's got a good eye. His history shows he overachieved like fuck with both Leipzig and with Schalke. And when it comes to club building, I mean, I remember when Newcastle got took over and I heard they were talking about Ralph Rangnick going there. And I was shitting it thinking, fucking hell, if he goes there as director of football, it tells me that someone there knows what the fuck they're doing. And they will be a problem. Then United got him and I was excited. And since he's come in, my excitement about him hasn't really dulled. I'd fucking love to take him out for a fucking Steiner and just fucking chat football to him, because I think he would just unload so much fucking knowledge in the game. Whatever his role's going to be for the next 2 years, I know we don't even know what that's going to be just yet. I mean, whatever the title ends up being, just give him the fucking keys. Tell John Murtagh and Darren Fletcher to fucking sit back, get a notepad out and learn. And maybe we could have a fucking chance at being a great club again. But there's got to be power with people who know what the fuck they're doing. I said on my live earlier, the Glazers get a lot of stick, and rightly so, right? But if I could play devil's advocate and defend them for a minute, they've allowed us some of our money to spend, over $1 billion of our money to spend. But the fucking donut that's been spending it has been Ed Woodward. I know Ed Woodward prevented Jose from signing some players that he wanted. And if he did it to Jose, he definitely has done it to Ollie and to Louis and to Moyes. Which means he thinks he knows fucking better than their managers, which is bananas. My only hope, because we've got zero evidence yet on what Fletcher, Murtagh and Arnold can do, my only hope is that between them, with Ralph's help, we identify who the right manager's going to be and we let him do what he needs to do. The sheer fact that it took us till how long to bring in a fucking sports psychologist when Sir Alex had one in 98. It's bonkers. How we've gone, there's so much work needs to happen. And for me, Woodward doesn't carry anywhere near enough blame for what he's allowed to happen as CEO.
Yeah.
And he gets credit for fucking making money commercially. We've actually lost our share of what we was fucking raking it in prior to 2005. Since then, our share, I think our money's gone up like 3x. But for the likes of Liverpool, it's gone up nearly 10x. And for the likes of every other team in the Premier League, it's gone up like 5x. So we've barely fucking gone up. And when you look at what Barcelona are doing, yes, they've had Lionel Messi and they've had some success in the Champions League more recently than us. But they're in $1 billion. And all they did was copy us.
Yeah, there's a lot to turn around before we can start hoping, really, and obviously that starts with getting the manager out at the end of the season. Right, Steve, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to everyone at home. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the like button as well. Man United have lost to Manchester City. We'll see in a bit.
Fucking digs, aren't they?